Happy and everyone Wednesday, hello. Today we will be going over Tinto Talks number 41, which is going to be detailing the parliamentary system in the upcoming game Project Taser. I know what you're saying, it's actually Project Caesar, but it's pronounced Kaiser, but it's really a teaser, so it's Taser. Hello everyone, and welcome to another Tinto Talk. Hello. Everyone remembers the holidays, everyone, and welcome because you capitalize holidays much like you capitalize Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, everyone. This is the Happy Wednesday where we give you information about our very secret game with codename Project Teaser. This week they misspelled it. They misspell it every week. It's really Teaser. It's not Kaiser. But let's continue. This week we will talk about Parliaments. We have a very simple feature with the same name in EU4, but this is rather different, as you will see. We've gone heavily into making this more flavorful as well, as many countries have their unique names for Parliament, where it is Kots in Aragon, Riksdag in Sweden, etc., mostly etc., and we do see a system here where we are going to have parliamentary requests that you can make to Parliament, and then Parliament is also going to have their own agendas. It seems like getting these agendas enforced on you will generally be negative, but will allow you to increase your ability to pass the particular requests that you want to get through, and so this is going to be the system. You see base support is 11% here. How's this parliament going? It doesn't seem to be going too well. It seems like the nobilities are kind of getting their things through. Types of parliament. First of all, there are 5 types of parliaments, although technically you could argue that no parliament is a type at all, as well. There are based on the different types of gatherings that different societies had, which means that different countries will start with different types of government, and that you will be able to change it over time. We see assembly is available to all countries. Nobles and peasants can have agendas, but they have weak impact. This seems kind of like an early game type of thing. We see council requires the codified laws advance. Nobles and clergy can have agendas, but they have weak impact. We see that council is present here, and we see minus 10% impact. Could be useful, can be useful, would be useful, should be useful. We see a state parliament requires the feudalism advance. Nobles, clergy, and burghers can all have agendas. You notice here that they are not weakened. And I believe feudalism will be present in Europe at game start, but we'll see. We see autocratic parliament requires an age of absolutism advance, so this will be coming later in the game. Nobles, clergy, and burghers all have their own agendas. Crown power is 25% higher, so I'm assuming the kind of base support is going to be higher if there's a lot more crown power. Can force through any issue they want to Parliament for a small cost. Makes sense. It is about absolutism. And then we see constitutional parliament. Requires the age of absolutism advance. Nobles, clergy, and burghers can all have agendas, and their impact is much higher. So contrasted with an autocratic parliament, the nobles' estate has an improved estate satisfaction. And so this is going to be the 5 different types of systems, or 6 if you count no parliament, as they mentioned. If you wish to let your peasants have a say in parliament, then you can grant them the privilege, but don't say we didn't warn you. You didn't warn us. What are you talking about? This is the first we've heard of that. Calling a parliament. If you are able to hold any type of parliament, you can call on them as long as it's been at least 5 years since the last parliament was called. If you do not call for 1 decade, the estates will get less satisfied for each passing month. Interesting. Hopefully there's a pop-up that is going to let you know that this is occurring, but I assume that there will be. When you call a parliament, you will get a choice of where the parliament should be held. You can always pick the parliament in your capital, which will give a small boost to centralization. We love to see it. But you have also the option to pick another location. Usually you can pick any town or city, but there are countries that can hold parliament in a rural location as well. If you pick a place that's not the capital, your country will become slightly more decentralized. We hate to see it, but that location will gain a nice bonus for the duration of the parliament, which lasts about half a year. Interesting. We see parliament location is going to give prosperity, development, monthly control. And the monthly control, that is not a small amount, so plus 6%. Over the course of time, maybe this will be good for integrating someplace if you end up taking a piece of territory that's worth far more than anything else you have. Maybe the monthly control is worth it. Something like that. Like if you are in northern Italy and you take Rome or something, except I don't know if Rome is really that robust a city. I guess we'll have to see. If you take like Constantinople or something like this, that's probably a really robust city where establishing control maybe makes a bit of sense. You also need to pick an issue that will be the main debate of the Parliament as well. You have up to 2 options per estate to choose from. where the parliament support you gain depends on the current power in their country. You could see that we have multiple debates here. Establish new hunting grounds appears to be pretty good. Expand officer lists. It does seem to be the case that it is these guys' powers that is informing to some degree the percentages here. And I'm guessing if you set forth multiple things, it will help you to push stuff through. The needs of the crown do not grant additional support, so these are the crown kind of needs here. The parliament issues. The issues picked has a modifier that is applied to the country while the debate is ongoing. In many cases, this is rather beneficial, but only lasts for the duration of the parliament. We currently have over 70 parliament issues and about a dozen country-specific ones. If you fail to get enough support in parliament, there will be a drawback, which is usually a hit to stability, but if you get over 50% backing in parliament of the country, there will be some benefits depending on the issue. Interesting. So I'm guessing the goal is to slot in enough of these at over 50%, and then it will kind of push through several of these issues where you are going to be getting a lot of support for, your stuff based on guys wanting to be in. But if we can only pick 2 issues, right, then there's no way for us to get bolster the government and above 50%, right? We would have to use something from this icon. I can't really see who that is, and the nobles here. For example, the nobles are at 14%, so any 14% plus a 44% will get through, and we will have the kind of the stability bonus. So let's take a look here. Promote castle works. This is something that many states view as beneficial. Okay, fair enough. Minus castle costs. So when we were looking at this before, I don't know how I feel about this. This seems like a really lot of cost reduction. And I mean, you still need the same amount of materials for a castle. This seems like kind of like, they talked about wanting to go away from like stacking modifiers and this type of stuff in EU4, and this to me just seems like a really big reduction in cost, such that it feels like it is a departure from their desire to not be so board gamey. I don't know exactly how I feel about it. I do like the monthly progress to defensive, though, as one of the modifiers, and we see here losing stability. So I'm guessing the first order of issues when you're evaluating which issues you want to put up for parliamentary debate, again, you can pick 2 options per estate. 2 options per estate. I thought it was just 2 options overall. Okay, so then getting stuff through should be fairly easy overall, but if you put through too many things and you don't get it through, you will get the stab hit. This is something that many estates view as beneficial, makes sense. Conduct a census. In the days, a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that all the world shall be registered. This was the first registration and was taken while Quilinius? Who is this? Someone, governor of Syria. All went to their homes to be registered. If we pass this, we get a debate thing, and we get a little bit of population growth while it's being debated. I'm not sure I understand the logic behind the pop growth, but okay. Everyone's going home, so they're hooking up with their exes. Okay, so parliamentary support. So what is parliamentary support, though? You always have a base support from your current crown power, which is normally will be rather low unless you have completely crippled your estates, and then you will always have the potential support you can get from picking an issue. There are also some government reforms and or advances that increase the base support. So how do you increase support during a parliamentary then? Well, we see parliamentary agendas. Well, you can always see what agendas the estates are pushing during a parliament, and if you grant them what they want, your parliamentary support will increase. Okay, so it actually might be a double-layered thing where not only do we have to pick one of these issues that they already support, we have to pick one that they are currently have an agenda for. So we see lessen levy obligation for nobility here. Do we see it also down here? Although we don't see it down here, although these can be screenshots from 2 different instances. The amount of parliamentary support that increases is based on the estate power they have, multiplied by their current satisfaction. Okay, so it will have to go through the satisfaction as well. This makes it beneficial to keep the estates happier than the minimum levels if you wish to rely upon them in parliament. These agendas include law changes, changes in societal values, privileges granted, and more. If you accept the agendas of an estate, then the next agenda they propose in the session will give far less parliament support, so you can't just... You have to create a coalition, not just lean on your base, which kind of makes some sense. And we see noble autonomy support. So perhaps it's the case that these will just generally kind of be negative. They will support some agendas, and then in order to get them to support others, you will have to give concessions such as this. We lose 2.5 stability. This seems bad. We change societal value towards decentralization. It's unclear to which degree a decentralization is good to me. And a little bit interesting because as you increase control, you increase the, for lack of a better word, control over the economy that you are getting in a location. And overall, this seems good, but the economic activity still happens even if you don't have the control. It just goes to your estates instead. And so it could be the case that having really powerful estates is going to be better than just not having powerful estates. So if you're gonna, let's put it in terms of like money. If you're making 10 ducats, and instead of you're making 10 ducats, your control goes way down and your estates make 10 ducats, 10 ducats are still being made, right? So if you decentralize and a lot of power ends up going towards your estates, if there are ways to make use of this and to massage it and modifiers to apply to this type of thing, maybe decentralization actually in some cases makes sense, or with a particular strategy. So that is going to be really interesting to kind of sink our teeth into, kind of outside the scope of the game, but I think that in some cases decentralization ought to be good, but I anticipate that decentralization will always be bad in the kind of context of the game. But I think that, like IRL, decentralizing some things definitely makes some sense, but maybe an overall decentralization in an aggregate sense is bad. I'm not sure. A little bit interesting to think about, but we need to see kind of modifiers and exactly how the estates are accumulating the money that is not going to you when you have kind of really high, when you have lower control, what exactly happens with the economic activity regarding the estates, and can you kind of ride the lightning of your estates, make them really powerful, lean into them, and then make use of the fact that they are powerful in a way that you could not leverage it if you had the power yourself. If you're getting the 10 ducats, instead you give the 10 ducats to them and try and like ride their coattails, this type of thing. Which is, for me, kind of an interesting thing to think about with this game, and it comes up a lot, and it comes up kind of when we think about decentralization. But tangents aside, let's continue. Parliamentary requests. You can use the parliament to support immediately during a session to get a request fulfilled that will reduce your support by 50%. You can request additional taxes. This allows you to collect more taxes from the estates during the next 3 years, which is, of course, if they have less money, they can't do as much stuff with the things. I just generally assume that the AI is not very good at allocating resources, and so it's better in the hands of the player. But if the burghers can do things that the player cannot, then maybe them having money makes sense. For example, ask for larger levies. This will allow you to raise 25% larger levies at any point during the next 3 years. Ask for law changes. This will allow you to change laws at a much reduced cost of stability during the next 3 years. It'll be interesting if you can... It'll be very cool if you can kind of, from a roleplay perspective, like set agendas for like things to do during particular phases and have like a phasic kind of storytelling structure. And this leans into that a little bit in the sense that you're investing a resource, right, in terms of a parliamentary request for law changes. And so maybe you have a period where you rework your laws, and then another period where you engage in economic development and these types of things, and gives a little bit more of a story kind of experience with the game. We have prepare for war. This will get you an insulted casus belli on the country of your choice within diplomatic range. Interesting. Of course, using any of these will require that you probably have to pick an issue backed by a powerful estate and probably accept an agenda or two. Makes sense. I would not recommend hovering closely to 50% if you really want an issue to succeed, as there may be many events that could reduce it happening. So I'm assuming this means be way over 50%, not like avoid being under 50%, just slightly in terms of what this is meant to mean. Parliamentary seats. We have two more things influencing Parliament that might be of interest as well. This kind of piece of advice is like where we are like so dissociated from the actual playing of the game. It's like a piece of advice on like how to play the game, but we don't have our hands on it, and so like it contextually doesn't hit because we don't have the context yet in terms of offering the advice. But okay. We have two more things influencing parliaments that might be of interest as well. There are two special buildings that can be created that are counted as parliamentary seats, which give extra significance to the location. One is an urban parliamentary seat that the burghers can ask for during a parliament, which grants a significant permanent power to the burghers in a town or city. The other is a rotten borough, which is the noble's estate will build in... Is that really rotten? Okay, which will build in a rural location, increasing their power if they are not currently happy. Okay, I guess it is rotten. This sounds like the state of Denmark, where something is in fact rotten there. Not making a comment about Denmark, that's a Shakespeare reference. All's not well in Denmark. Okay, in the state of Denmark. Before we end, though, we would like to hear any of the flavor names you would like to see in Parliament, as we have about 35 at the moment. So if you have a suggestion, feel free to go to the forums and let them know. Stay tuned, as next week we will talk about disasters. Yay! Our very favorite. And that's kind of the wrap-up and look at Parliament. I guess I'm a little bit... for this plus percentage, I'm a little bit uncertain whether this means that this is the level of support, or if we pick these, they will offer support, these types of things. In terms of the clarity of like what was being said, I'm not 100% sure I got it right. Hopefully I did. But we will see a little bit of a system that will have a mini game, which will involve bringing people together, making concessions in order to push specific things through, which is generally how I think things should work in like a grand strategy game, that there's a little bit of give and take and negotiation, and often it's like not really present in grand strategy games. It's like you have like various penalties, and you can either get the one thing you want to cross or you can't. It's very cool when there are things where there's negotiations and concessions, and this kind of looks like this will be this kind of system, unless you're an absolutist, then you push everything through, and so kind of excited to see the parliamentary system here, and looking forward to playing with it. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do the YouTube algorithm thing, and other than that, have a happy Wednesday.